on his own. Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2. Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Very nice.
We got a trainee here. We're
Very nice.
breaking in a rookie.
Good job.
Good job. Our invocation today will be delivered by Craig Maxwell from our auditor's office. After the invocation, please remain standing for the pledges.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Good morning.
If you'll bow your head. Heavenly Father, we come before you today asking for your forgiveness, guidance, courage, and strength. Help us to be aware of our surroundings so that we may provide to others who are in need with comfort and love. Lord, we seek your help today when making decisions, that we may apply those same qualities so that you may look down upon us and be satisfied with what we've done. Lord, we thank you for providing us with many blessings, many which we tend to take for granted. If we slow down every once in a while, we might see more of your wonderful work. You've given us opportunities to make a difference. Now can we carry forth with it? We remember Dr. Martin Luther King, who used what you gave him to lead, to communicate, and in doing all of that, he did it in a manner that was powerful and lasting. Help us teach our children about the wonderful qualities of your Son, Jesus Christ. For you gave your only Son that we may be forgiven of our sins. He gave us an example by which to live. We can never live up to his perfection, but we should try. Please look out for those who are overseas or who are away from their families, that they may be safe but strong. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thanks, Craig. Mr. Manius, agenda announcements?
Your Honor, we do not have any announcements this morning.
Oh. Getting started off to a good new year. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of January the 13th.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion, a second. Please vote. Motion passes. Commissioner Fickus, if you'll hit your switch. Motion passes unanimously. We have a couple of proclamations, recognitions, and presentations today. Commissioner Brooks.
Thank you, Your Honor. We've got a proclamation honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We had a full weekend of activities across this county in memory of a great man. And the parade in Fort Worth yesterday had the largest crowd that I've ever seen at one of those events. It was a great day. I move approval of ratification of the proclamation already presented.
Second. We have motion, a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. At this time, I'm going to call upon Larry Wilson to come forward and to recognize our 2014 Leadership Development Program participants.
Morning.
Good morning.
We're here today to recognize the 2014 Leadership Development participants. They make a year-long commitment to studying leadership skills, to studying county policy, and getting acquainted with other people across county lines. They also do a project in which they study a department outside their own. And today we'd like to introduce those who have completed the program. And I'll ask them to come up and make a line up here in front of this podium. Jose Aguilar, Public Health. Anthony Black, Facilities Management. Judy Burgess, Tax. Francis Coffey, Information Technology. Randall Corley, Facilities Management. Charles Chuck Cox, Precinct 4. Kimberly Dixon, County Clerk. Damian Garrett, Facilities Management. Brittany Gill, Juvenile Services. Mamie Glover, Veteran Services. Alan Guerrero, Juvenile Services. Ashley Hickson, Public Health.
You're going to have to get closer. We got a few to go.
Matthew Jones, Auditor. Willie Shepard, Facilities Management. Teresa Steele, Tax. Savala Swanson Jr., Facilities. Sandra Taylor, Facilities Management. Dion Vandiver, Precinct 1.
Yeah.
Dana Victorson, Juvenile Services. Rosalind Wiley, Pretrial Services. And lastly, we have Karen Younger, Information Technology. Leadership 2014.
It's like Christmas, everybody keep smiling. Thank you all very much. Congratulations.
Guess I better.
Mamie, congratulations. Well deserved. You know, this is your job. Did you know that? You know, there's going to be a lot of people that
Next, we have our presentations of our 11th Annual Tarrant County Golf Tournament Trophy. Craig, come on down. GK's grinning like he must have won it this year.
They didn't win.
Good morning again.
We came closer.
Good morning, Craig.
This year we did play at Pecan Valley. It was GK's passion to get this tournament to Pecan Valley. I do appreciate him being persistent and persuasive, and because we had a very good time. The course was in very good shape. The food was very, very good. Everybody had a very good day of golf and a very good day of fellowship. There are a number of people, a couple of people I'd like to recognize for their hard work that they put in. Mr. Jim Duff, Paul Wood, Doug Black, and of course the Tarrant County Credit Union. They came out and helped us with the registration, gift giving.
I see him sitting back there in the corner.
Yeah, I do. It wouldn't be the Tarrant County Golf Tournament without them, so I do appreciate them very much. This year's winner was a team out of the District Attorney's Office. Yeah. Yeah, as you see in my notes, that this probably won't be the last time that you see them up here. They normally, in years past, the average age was anywhere from, average age of the winning team is around 50. This year's team, 30. Wow. So I think next year what I'm going to do is try to get the group to create a seniors division. Maybe maybe some of us will have a chance to get our name on a different trophy because I'm not sure that how we're going to hold up in future years. But maybe they'll be busy in trial. They'll have to be working on the weekends. But this year's winners, Mr. Charles Bulware, Marcus Hanna, John Newbern, and Allison Casera. They'll come up.
Yeah, this is definitely a younger crowd compared to what we've seen out of that department before.
And they're also
If any of you want to say a word, I'm sure you're not short of words. If you'd be, I want to say a word or
What you're
two.
extending there.
Is this the under 18 crowd?
Do y'all all have your bar licenses?
driver's licenses.
Turn around so they can get a picture and y'all quit moving around up there.
And they can try cases too.
That goes without saying. Thank you all very much. Congratulations.
It's refreshing to see the young people win and not GK The typical guys
And Craig, and that's right, we
that
got,
play that pencil, so
Ray.
play golf so well.
Well, Ray, did you get displaced from the team?
Our team came in, did not come in second, like we usually do.
They shot a 61, that group.
Whoa.
Yeah, how did you do, GK?
We actually, I'm glad you asked. That's why I brought it up. We actually shot a 65 this year. And I didn't get to keep score, so that's a legitimate score. We could have won this.
well, at least he speaks of his honesty there, right there, and puts it out there, that if he'd have been keeping score, they'd have won.
I told them to give me the scorecard, but they didn't, so.
If I could, I'd like a motion to receive and file the recognition for our leadership development as well as the presentation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. You have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Honor. Members of the Court, we have one additional item this morning. We're requesting that the Court receive and file a letter to the Texas County Judge and Commissioners Association, which is a continuing education committee, certifying the completion of the briefing sessions for calendar year 2014 that may be used by Commissioner Johnson toward his annual requirement for continuing education hours.
It's AIDS discrimination request.
Move approval. I thought you were exempt after all these years.
What this is all about.
So what we're certifying as completion of is just that you're being old.
Apparently so, Judge.
Okay.
Live long enough, you'll get there.
They figured we don't have any hope anyway, so they just don't require us to have it. Did I get a motion in a second?
You got a motion.
Second.
Okay, we got that. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Tidwell.
Good morning. We have
Good
three
morning.
items. The first item is to receive and file the auditor's report for the review of the assessing and billing of the ad valorem section of the tax office. You have the response from Mr. Wright attached. We will continue to work with his office and TAD. They do a great job on the majority of the huge amount of transactions that they process. These are some of these 20% out of the 80%, out of the 100%. The 80's good, the 20 you have some exceptions, and a lot of it's because it has to be done manually. Hopefully with TAD's new system, that'll be automated, and some of these things will go away.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion to receive and file. Motion and a second to receive and file. Any questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our other item is to receive and file the auditor's report for the review of the fiscal year 2014 for Chapter 59 asset forfeitures reported by the attorney representing the state. We did not receive a response from Mr. Shannon prior to his departure. We have shared this and prior reports with Ms. Wilson and look forward to work with her to correct these items.
Move approval to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Glenn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have two items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second and final item, we're asking the court to approve an out-of-class pay extension for veteran services. If this looks familiar, that's because you've seen it before. So previously, we've requested and the court has approved two out-of-class pay extensions. Ms. Glover assumed the responsibilities of the Director of Veteran Services in May of last year. So this request of approval will take us through April of this year. The County Administrator's Office is in the process of scheduling interviews late January, early February. The fiscal impact, this request is approximately $4,900, including fringe benefits.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris? Good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
We have one item for the court, the court's consideration this morning. We're asking the court to approve the joint resolution which amends the 800 megahertz radio maintenance agreement between Tarrant County and the city of North Richland Hills by extending that agreement through September 30, 2015. Just want to add that that agreement would allow us to pay only for 6 months of maintenance on the radios that the court approved. The other engagement with Motorola with an additional saving for us is about $32,000. So.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Chris.
Yes.
Vinny?
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court.
Good morning.
Today, we're requesting a approval for a contract between UNT Health Sciences Center and Tarrant County to provide a patient-centered medication adherence model for public health. And this is for our clients 18 to 24 years of age, considered youth, that are HIV positive. So this is a pilot study to see if we can improve their adherence rate for medication. The idea is that if it goes well, then we'd look for expansion of these funds to women, infant, children, and youth next year, which is usually the target population for Part D funds that are supplying this grant.
So these are Ryan White
Yes,
funds?
sir. That is correct. Ryan White, Part D.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Jack?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have 5 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid 2015-002. This is a bid for the Tarrant County Subcourthouse Arlington Parking Lot Completion 2 project. Recommendation will be to award the low bidder, C Greenscaping. If this is approved, we're seeking contract approval as well as acceptance of the payment bond.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Is this is for landscaping? Is this landscaping?
No, sir. This company is an awardee in the past for landscaping, but they're doing some parking lot completion work.
Is that
And
parking lot concrete?
Yes, sir. We're good with them. We've checked them out. They'll do a good job for us.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure it wasn't asphalt. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is also a bid award recommendation for bid 2015-034. This is a bid for the sale of rifles, shotguns, and assorted handguns for the District Attorney's Narcotics Unit. Recommendation be to award on a per-enterprise basis, awarding to the high bidders, Fort Worth Guns, Phoenix Distributors, and Alpine Industries, which will result in revenue of $79,670 to the DA's office.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3 is also a bid award recommendation for bid 2015-054. This is a bid for annual contract for copier and fax supplies. Our recommendation would be to award a per-enterprise basis, awarding to the primary and secondary vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 4 is another bid award recommendation for bid 2015-056. It's a bid for annual contract for mattress materials for the Sheriff's Department. Recommendation would be to award on a per-enterprise basis, awarding certain items to Trace Industries and Kim Tick Coated Fabrics.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our fifth item is an item that we would normally ask to be considered on the consent agenda, but felt like it would be a good day to mention. This is actually our 400th interlocal agreement for cooperative purchasing of goods and services. We're seeking approval of the interlocal agreement between Tarrant County and Cochran County, which is 56 miles west of Lubbock, for the cooperative purchase of goods and services. That 400th entity now consists of 183 cities, 17 towns, 87 counties, 11 colleges and universities, 45 independent school districts, and 57 other entities.
Move approval.
Second. A motion is second. Any discussion? That's got to be getting pretty close to New Mexico borders.
Everything is 50 miles west of Lubbock, but did very close to the border.
Unless it was 50 miles north, and then it could be up it. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Jack, hold on a minute, please.
Yes, sir.
I've got a question about item number 2, just for my personal information. Do we know what's going to happen with these rifles, shotguns, and assorted handguns? What is the ultimate disposition of
The requirement
those
is
things? Are
that
they going back to the streets?
the requirement is that these companies, and they were checked out by Herschel T-Bay, they all have their federal firearm licenses. They're reputable companies. We've sold to them in the past. We don't do this very often. I'm
so
sure
they will be resold?
Yes, sir, they will be.
Thank you.
Mr. Riley.
Morning.
Morning.
Have one item for y'all this morning. We're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve an interlocal agreement with the town of Pantego related to the improvements to Park Row Boulevard. This project is being funded with Precinct 2 discretionary bond funds.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Are there any appointments today? Being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius?
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 2 items to bring to the court this morning. The first concerns the legislative issues. As you know, we will be swearing in a new governor and lieutenant governor this morning, and with that begins the start of the legislative season. Mr. Mendez is down in Austin, and we'll be providing a weekly briefing or an update to you as we have in the past. There is some information provided to you in your folders and in your court book. I'll be more than happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Looks like we're off the hook.
Thank you. We can move to item number 2. This is the public health update. Mr. Tenasia is here to address the court at this time.
So this morning, I have 2 updates to give you all. One is related to a measles situation that's developing right now. And then obviously, we're still in the midst of the flu season, so I want to kind of catch up on what's going on with that. So we'll talk about measles first. Measles is a highly contagious viral illness. 90% of folks who come in contact with a sick individual will develop the disease if they're not immunized. So immunization is really our best protection against measles. And over the last few years, we've seen, that normally, I think back in 2000 when we started seeing a significant decline in measles cases occurring, and we had mostly imported cases coming. Last year, nationwide, we've seen a big spike of cases, and that kind of leads us to think that people are getting complacent with their vaccination. So, this is a point that I'd like to highlight, that we need to be very vigilant and keep our immunity up by taking vaccination, because otherwise it is very contagious. It is a human disease, so there's no animal reservoir, and that's actually a good thing, because that leads us to, if we get vaccinated, we can actually eradicate the disease. Signs and symptoms, yes, sir.
How often does one need to be vaccinated?
Back in the day, it was only 1 vaccination, and now the recommendation is 2 shots are recommended. It's early on in the childhood. I believe there's one from 1 year of age to 14 months. I have it somewhere in the slide coming up. And then the other one is, during age 4 to 6 years of age. So there's a booster that's needed. And the reason for that is with the one shot, what they found was that about 95% of individuals were getting the immunity and 5% didn't get a good response. So with the booster, they're hoping to catch that up to almost 100%.
So there is no need for adults who were immunized as children or who have had the measles to get further immunization.
That is correct. Especially adults born before 1957 are considered immune because of, there was such a prevalence of the disease that they should have had it as they were growing up. And if they were born after 1957 and these are adults who've taken at least one shot, there's really no, recommendation to give them another one.
Thank you.
Signs and symptoms usually they mimic the flu as they begin early on. Cough, runny nose, conjunctivitis, fever. Fever in this case is usually greater than or equal to 101 degrees Fahrenheit. Can spike up to 103, 105. So that's sometimes serious in young children because it can cause other problems from fever. One of the key features that doctors look for, they're called Coplic Spots, and I'll show you a picture of that, or Coplic Spots.
I can hardly wait.
And they're white blue spots in the mouth, and that's what most doctors will look for. But they're hard to see. Usually they're early on in the disease. And a characteristic feature is a rash. Most people, when they think of measles, they think of a rash. And it's a rash that starts behind the ear, spreads from the forehead downwards and outwards, almost like if you're in a centrifuge and pushing things out. So it's a centrifugal distribution of the rash, which is very distinct and opposite from chickenpox, where it will start in the outside or the limbs and then travel towards the body. So those are some of the differentiating features between chickenpox and measles. Here's a quick picture. If you look at the Coplic spots, and they're kind of hard to see on the slide, but they're kind of reddish areas, and then inside you'll find like there's a whitish bluish spot, and then another picture of the actual characteristic measles rash.
I don't remember being broke out quite that much.
That's a textbook picture.
That one had it pretty hard.
That is right. That's a textbook picture because they want people to understand, what they're looking for. But typical presentations can be mild and vary. And like I said, it spreads much like the flu, droplet and airborne spread. So a lot of those precautions that we use for the flu go here as well. Incubation period ranges from 7 to 21 days. The infectious period, and this is where things get a little tricky, is 4 days before rash onset to 4 days after a rash onset for a total of 9 days. Now, if you think, somebody gets a mild fever and then they're starting to get a runny nose, they may think it's just a common cold or the flu. So, and this is a highly contagious disease. So till that rash develops, there's really not much of an inkling that, I might have measles, or, the doctor may not think of that either. So that can cause problems for us folks in public health. So a clinical case definition of measles is a generalized rash lasting more than 3 days, temperature more than 101 degrees Fahrenheit, cough, runny nose, and conjunctivitis. And a confirmed case is one that's either lab confirmed, and if they're lab confirmed, they don't need to meet the clinical definition. But they can also be epidemiologically linked to a lab confirmed case if they have these clinical features. So that would be a confirmed case. And then a contact is a person who's exposed to a confirmed case. And now in this case, they can spread the disease before rash onset. Like I said, they might not think they have the measles. And early symptoms are usually very nonspecific, so that causes problems. Now the contact risk of developing the disease, like I said earlier, is 90% if they're not immunized. So again, immunization is the key. And the prevention is very simple. If you're young, obviously these are now recommendations, and people usually follow because these are school requirements as well. That at age 12 to 15 months, there needs to be the first shot of MMR, which is a 3-part vaccine: measles, mumps, and rubella. It is a live vaccine, but it's live weakened virus, so very mild reaction to it if there is some. And then a second dose from 4 to 6 years of age is recommended as a booster. And here's a national look of what's going on recently. As you can see, back in 2000, 2001, we started to see a significant decline. Vaccine was going pretty good, and it's stayed pretty calm over the last few years. But last 3 years, we've seen huge spikes, and some of the theories around that are people are getting complacent, and they're not taking the vaccine. They're signing immunization waivers. That can lead to decline in immunity in a community, and we see outbreaks like this. And an interesting fact to note is that still a lot of our cases are imported. Recent data that I looked at back in 2013-14 shows that about 46% come from Europe. And then two other major countries that were on the list were India and Philippines. So today I'm here to tell you we have an imported case in Tarrant County. And here's a quick look at what has happened in Tarrant County. There were 16 cases in 2013. There was a little bit of an outbreak going on. But the last couple of years we had only one, including one that just came this year. So this person is an adult. We got the lab confirmed test back from the state lab. And it's an imported case. A person traveled from India back to Tarrant County area on January 6th. They had a stop in Dubai as well. There is an outbreak currently going on in Disneyland or related to Disneyland. So you might have all heard in the news there was a outbreak from the California Disneyland location. There's probably 50-some cases across the country. But this has no apparent link to that. So this is, in our understanding, truly an imported case. The date of onset for symptoms for this individual was on January 1st. And the rash appeared on January 3rd, but it was their day of the flight. They didn't think much of it and just went on the plane. The person traveled from India to Dubai on January 3rd. They had a stopover in Dubai from the 3rd to the 6th and returned to the DFW area on the 6th. Infectious period, like I said, starts 4 days before rash onset and to 4 days after rash onset. So December 30th to January 7th is the period that we're concerned about. And our main interest would be from January 6th and January 7th, especially what has happened on that plane. So we're in contact with the state and CDC. They're trying to get a manifest of all the plane passengers for us. Now, the idea that we have and understanding that we have is that it's again going to be limited to a few rows in front and a few rows back. But we're going to work with CDC on clarifying all of that information on how many people we may need to follow up on. Our hope is that most of these individuals are immunized, and that way we don't have to do anything. But if there's infants involved, then obviously we're concerned.
So we're now at the 20th?
Yes, sir.
How long is it going to take? Have we got the manifest?
No, we're still waiting on the CDC to provide us with that. This morning our staff checked, and CDC is still trying to get the manifest from the airline. Because the case was confirmed last Thursday, and they sent a request in to the airlines, and they're expecting a result or the details back today.
So by this point, if there were infections, we'd be dealing with contacts of contacts.
Right. So we have done some investigation, obviously. So there's 6 family members for this individual and 1 community contact. So among the family members, there were 4 adults and 2 children. So out of that, 2 adults and 2 children were immunized, so they're not of a concern. 1 adult was old enough to be considered immune. 1 adult, they're older, not to that cutoff point. They didn't, that person didn't give a good history of, they didn't remember that if they had the vaccine or not. But they were older, and possibly could have been exposed during their period of growing up. So we're monitoring that individual, talking to them every 3 days. They've gotten a good understanding of what we're looking for. If they develop any cough, fever, sore throat, runny nose, then they're going to call us. Otherwise, we're checking on them every couple of days.
Old enough to be considered immune. What's the?
So people born before 1957 are considered immune because it was measles was so prevalent that you would think that most folks got it as they were growing up.
Okay.
That's sort of a general cutoff norm that scientific communities put forth, saying if you're older than born in 1957, then we're okay. We're not worried about your exposure to measles. And then 1 community contact was when this person arrived that afternoon. They went to the doctor's office to get checked out, and there was 1 person sitting there in the doctor's office that we've talked to. They've given a verbal history of immunization to measles, but we're still working with them. That person has some underlying conditions. So we're still monitoring that individual just to make sure. They have an appointment set up with their own personal doctor to go over the history because of underlying conditions and things. So that one's going to be followed up on. And then any contacts that we get from the airline, we're going to continue to follow those. But if you look at the exposure date, the 6th,
we would have already had them.
We're reaching that time frame where they would start to develop some symptoms, obviously, if there's any, and we're keeping a close watch. But we're hoping to get the manifest today so we can, do our due diligence on that as well. So, and I'll, obviously answer any questions about measles, but I wanted to kind of quickly rush through the flu update as well. Here's a national picture of what's going on. We're coming off a very high peak, almost matches our 2012 peak, which was considered to be a bad season. For the last 2 weeks, we're seeing declines, or actually almost 3 weeks now. And then if you look at the confirmed lab information for lab results, those are also coming down nationally. The picture here looks a little bit better. Last 3 weeks ago, the entire map was almost looking very red with high activity. We're starting to see some shrinking of activity, if you would. But it's not very good for us because we're still in a high activity zone in Texas. But overall, we're starting to see a decline in Tarrant County and Texas as well.
So D.C. couldn't come up with the data?
I'm sorry?
I think on your chart there it showed that insufficient data for...
Oh, a lot of times it's lack of reporting. Not every state gets their information in on a timely basis, so a lot of times
I think it's
there's
interesting
areas.
that they want us to report to D.C., but D.C. doesn't want to report to us.
But there's a little bitty white spot down there in Louisiana.
I think that's just...
that's Lake Ponce.
That's probably just a lake.
Well, there you go.
So here's another chart that we normally don't see. The epi folks do follow up on this, but general public usually doesn't see this. But it's the Pneumonian and Influenza mortality report. There's another way to do surveillance on influenza to see how many reports are of deaths related to influenza. And in this case, as you can see, 2012 was a pretty bad season, and 2013, spiked pretty high, but not as high as 2012. And we're almost as close to 2013. So that is a cause for concern because, as you can see, there's a couple of squiggly lines following, and those are the epidemic thresholds that we like flu seasons to stay below because otherwise we consider them severe. So we are in a severe season, so I don't make any bones about it that we need to get protected because otherwise we see things like this, which obviously these are folks dying, and we'd rather not see that. Here's a local situation. Through influenza-like illness surveillance, we're seeing a decline as well. We are coming off a peak. And I keep saying a peak because we're early in the season still. There's still a chance that we might go back up. So I don't want to give an idea that, the season's over. It's not. And one of the things here to note, different than the national picture, is that we peaked early, almost 3 weeks earlier than what we usually do. And, last couple, 3 seasons were a little bit later, very typically end of January, early February.
Is this based upon some year? I mean, is it based upon the federal government year, or why do we start at week 40?
So this is just the most recent map for the flu season. We consider it started around October 1st, and that's why we're doing it flu season year, if you would. So that's because in the summertime you're going to find that the surveillance data is pretty flat, and there's not a whole lot.
So we just decided so flu season just starts at week 40?
Usually unless there's like an early start to the flu season, then obviously we'll show that graph that, it started, like during H1N1 we were showing graphs all the way into the summer. But most typical years, you see that starting like, end of September, early October, and that's where we start to portray, because otherwise graphs become too big and hard to see what's going on. But that's why we repeat the same data from previous years, so it's comparable. And that's why you're seeing those blue lines in the background. Those are previous years that we're compared against. And as you go to week 37, 35, you see those decline at the end of the flu season. Those are like the summer months.
Okay.
Here's a picture of Texas as a whole, and that's what I was saying, that if you look at the blue line, which is the recent Texas graph, there is a spike back up. Even though they came off for a couple weeks, last week there was a spike across the state. Now, we hope that that's just that and we come back down. But if things go back to being fairly active, I would expect that Tarrant County kind of gets pulled along with that. We're keeping an eye on that situation as well. So now I'm ready to answer any questions if y'all may have on measles or the flu.
Any questions?
Thank
You
you.
will keep us informed if
Yes,
there are
sir.
additional measles.
Yes, sir, absolutely. As soon as we have the information, we'll do our due diligence, and I'll give you all an update. Thank you.
Your Honor, that's all we have at this time.
Then we'll recess our open meeting and proceed to close to discuss items exempted under sections 551.071, 072, 07.
So are we live on Saturday night?
Can I visit with you when this thing gets over? If we can ever find another, look here.
Having returned from our closed session and there being no business to conduct at this time, we are adjourned.